Hey, George. We've got quite a few. Kathleen, hello, welcome. Hey, Carol.
Hi.
Hello.
Do you want everybody to mute their microphones while you're doing this, Stacy, or just?
Yes, if they don't mind, I'll give you a couple of pointers up front. So, hello to those of you who I do not know. My name is Stacy Thomas. I've been in Toastmasters since 2012. I've been in district leadership. I've been in all the club leadership roles. Right now, I am serving as a coach for a club and a brand new club we just started. Yay! I'm the sponsor of that club. So I am really excited to be doing this training tonight. I mentioned to Jeff that we probably need to do some sort of training to help out our coaches, mentors, and sponsors. As you all know, we're looking at possibly redoing our district, realigning our district or all the districts in Toastmasters. So that means we may be picking up a lot of new clubs. We would love to start some new clubs within the Tennessee area so that we could have a lot of new clubs when that particular process starts happening. So tonight, I thought we would talk about club sponsors, mentors, and coaches and go into a little bit more detail and maybe share some information with you that will help you out in some of those roles. I know a lot of you have signed up to be a coach, sponsor, or mentor for our district. A lot of you are from clubs because I sent out an email to all of our presidents and vice presidents of education. Your club may be struggling, maybe not, but we can still give you some tips on how to make your club more exciting. I know I also sent out to all of the area and division directors because guess what? You guys really end up coaching the clubs that have 12 plus, but less than 20 members. So we all do a little bit of coaching, mentoring all along the way. So I thought this was a good subject for tonight. Now, when I start sharing, I cannot see each of you. So if you raise your hand, I won't be able to see you. Feel free to unmute and interrupt me if you have a question, or even better, if you have a suggestion that you want to share with everybody else, something maybe that went well with you that you think that you can share with everybody else. I would love for us to be able to share information and make this an even better presentation. So let me go ahead and get my screen share up. Okay, can you see my screen? Anybody? I don't want to unmute and let me know.
Yes, we can.
All right, fantastic. If you have questions at any time or comments at any time, feel free to interrupt me or put it in chat so that we won't lose it, and then we can talk about it at the end. So I have a couple of different presentations. I know your time is valuable, and this is late for Chattanooga and for Knoxville. So I'll go through this fairly quickly. Please make sure that you write your questions down or your comments down, and we can share those. So let's start with sponsors, mentors, and coaches. And what's the difference between those three? Because it can be very confusing. And one of the questions that always comes up is, which one's the easiest and how can I get done the fastest? And the honest truth is, none of them are easy. I mentioned that I am sponsoring a club right now. I actually started the conversation in January. So we're talking about 9 months in before we finally get to the point where we're ready to start this club. It's a long, drawn out process. None of them are easy. All of them take time and effort, but all of them are very rewarding. I encourage all of you, if you're thinking about coaching and mentoring and sponsoring, please do that. You will be absolutely amazed how much it energizes you to see the other clubs. So let's start with what's the difference between a new club sponsor, a mentor, and a coach. One of our past international directors described it this way. The sponsor is like the midwife. He comes in when the coach is in the club is in the birthing process. It's trying to get formed. We're trying to get new members ready. Once it's actually a club, it launches. Then the mentor steps in, is kind of the nanny. They do all the training. They help the club actually get started and kind of know what to do. And then once the club falls below 12 members, if that should happen, then the club coach kind of acts as a doctor. He comes in, he observes, he uses what expertise he has to try to help the club get back on the right track. So the club sponsor has a lot of roles. They actually have more roles then it is reflected here. This actually came from Toastmasters International sponsor training. So it says you set up the demo meeting. Well, you know what? You work a whole lot of time ahead of that doing the formation process. The club that I recently have been helping, we started out with a discussion with a single person at that company to say, yes, you can start a club at your company. How do I do that? So we started from the very basics process, went all the way through recruiting new members, talking to management, doing all of that stuff. So it's a lot more than just reflected here. But it does say engage management for corporate clubs, guides the meeting until 20 members commit. At that point, you can turn in your chartering paperwork. You also are the one who is going to be answering a lot of questions about the chartering paperwork. How do we get chartered? What do we do then? For the club mentor, they will take over. They will educate the members on meeting roles. Remember when you were first a brand new Toastmaster, when you first started, you had no idea what DTM meant. You had no idea what VPE meant. You didn't know any of the meeting roles. So you're going to have to educate them on meeting roles, on speaking and evaluation skills, because most of us learn by watching. But guess what? All of these are brand new Toastmasters, so none of them will know how to do that. And officer roles. You'll act as a general evaluator. So when they have their meetings, they will have a general evaluator, just like we do in all of our meetings. But you will act as kind of an overseer. So at the end, you can give them feedback about things they might want to improve. And this is really, really important. Instill enthusiasm, loyalty, a sense of responsibility for the club's future. That's really important. Get them excited about being in Toastmasters. A club coach. When a club coach steps in, the first thing he's going to do is observe. He needs to sit back and say, what's going right? What's not going right? Do they have a lot of visitors, but they can't turn them into members? Are they getting a lot of members, but then they don't renew? What's going on? Then he'll work with the club officers to develop a plan of action. He'll monitor, provide them feedback for the entire duration that he has assigned to their club. And again, he will encourage them and hopefully get them excited about being a Toastmasters club. I have provided resources at the end of each of these presentations so that you guys can just click on any of them. And there's a lot of information here. I went through the internet and I borrowed as many of the good ideas as I could find. I tried to pull them all together in one place so that we would have some tools and resources we could use. There's a lot of really good information here. You are welcome to use any of this. All right, let me switch over to my next presentation. We will go a little bit deeper into the club coaching because this is a really big one for us this year for the district. So I want to take some time talking about the club coach program specifically. Tonight we're going to try to identify the requirements of a club coach program, both from the perspective of the coach, but also from the perspective of the club. Understand what those responsibilities are. So what is a club coach? It's an experienced Toastmaster who partners with a club to help them rebuild membership and restore the quality of the member experience. And that's straight from Toastmasters. The indication that you've succeeded is if they reach distinguished status, DCP, according to Toastmasters International. So how does a club qualify for a coach? You have to have a minimum of at least 3 members. I did not realize there was a minimum, to be honest with you. I always heard 12 or less, but I'd never heard a minimum. You have to have at least 3 members that are renewed. But you can't have more than 12. They have to be in good standing. In other words, the club has to be paid up. Their dues has to be paid up for all of their members, either 3 through 12, at the time that they ask for a club coach. They cannot be in suspended status or closed status. So we have to get to them before they reach that point. And they can have 2 coaches appointed, but not more than 2. To be a coach, you have to be a paid member in good standing. That means you had to have paid your dues before you are appointed, and even after you're appointed, you have to be a member in good standing. You can't be a member of the club you're being appointed as a coach for. You have to have been in Toastmasters at least 1 year, served as a club officer for a whole year, whether that's 2 6-month terms or 1 whole year. You have to have served as a club officer. You have to have completed a minimum of level 2 and a path. And they included this others for the people who were under the old program, but that level 2 in pathways is the main piece. And you had to have completed the club coach training module in Basecamp. Yes, there is a module. You need to go through it because there's a lot of information that talks about what you need to do in order to be a coach and remain a coach in good standing. Your job is to offer encouragement, convince the club that this is an opportunity, not a setback. That's a big one because a lot of clubs are really down by the time they need a coach. You're their cheerleader. You need to help them with ideas. But the goal is they do the work because they're going to have to continue to do the work after you finish your coaching assignment and you've left. So get to know the officers and members, offer suggestions, encouragement, keep communications flowing. Revitalize their meetings. It says a full meeting is a key to getting a club back on track, and that's very true. Make sure that you have speakers, make sure that you have table topics, make sure that you have evaluations, do the basics. And sometimes clubs get away from that, and we have to get them back to the basics. Find new ways to advertise the club. Talk to other club coaches for ideas. I really encourage all of us to do this. And don't be afraid to ask, how can we change this? What can we do different? A lot of times, club members reach a certain point where they're kind of burned out and maybe they think they don't need to change. Maybe they like their club just the way it is. They like it being small. Don't be afraid to ask, how can we change this? How can we turn it around? The club coach agreement is the document that will assign you as a club coach to a particular club. In our district, it is the club growth director who assigns coaches, and I think he has a whole team who helps recruit them and assign them. The club president also has a piece of this. He has to agree to encourage club officers and members to actually get involved in the program to try to make the club better. This is really important. If your club members or your officers are not engaged, you can't save the club regardless of how hard you work to save it. It has to be the club, and they have to be willing to save themselves. District director also plays, or in this case, CGD, the club growth director, also plays a critical role because he is the one who submits your signed form. He also is the one to who you will submit reports, and he needs to read those reports, respond to them if necessary. You may have questions, you may have comments that he can help with. He needs to make sure that he does that, and then also he ensures that you undergo the 360 evaluation at the end of your time. To earn credit, you must serve a minimum of 6 months, not join the club during the appointment, and submit the required reports. There is a preliminary report you have to submit within 30 days of being appointed, and then you have to follow up every 60 days with another report and a final report at the end. These are pretty important reports. For one thing, they keep the district informed about what's going on. This is not a report that you submit to Toastmasters. This is a report that you submit to the district, so they know what's going on, and I always copy the club so that they will know what's going on as well. The club must achieve distinguished status for you to get credit as a coach by June 30th, following your 6-month requirement. And it also says, and I didn't realize this was still a part of the program, but it is. Everywhere I looked, I could find it. You also receive district leadership credit if that club also gets to the desired 20 members in the club. So that's pretty huge. To receive credit, the club coach must notify world headquarters in writing that the club coach was successful. So it's not an automatic thing. They have to actually notify Toastmasters that they agree that you completed your duties and you have been successful. If unsuccessful, you can be reappointed for 2 additional program years. On the initial club visit, I suggest you visit the club and the club officers prior to being appointed to see if you guys like each other, if you're going to be able to work together. Uh, how does it feel? How does that first introduction work? I know the first club I was ever assigned to as a coach, I met it with my partner who was also coaching. We went in and there was one officer there who was setting up the club for the meeting. They were setting out all the materials that we would need. And the first thing they said to us was, Are you just here for yourself, or are you here to help us? That's pretty much an eye opener. So make sure that you can work with your club officers and your club members. And if you guys like each other and you think you can work together, then you go back. The club president will go back and actually request that you be assigned. There's a lot of materials you can use, including Moments of Truth and the Coach Troubleshooting Guide. Those will help you evaluate your club to find out where your issues lie. Again, I've included a lot of resources here. The Moments of Truth, and if you see below that Google form, I actually turned it into a Google Doc so you could send it out and collect information from the club members without them having to put their names on it. There's a lot of club retention ideas here. There's coach resources. There's your preliminary report and your progress report. There's also something called a club program idea book. It's full of ideas of how you can make your meetings more exciting, how you can come up with themes for table topics, everything else. The urgent care panel suggestions. Now, we have in our district an urgent care panel that was created by Becky Beggerly. We meet on the third, I believe, Wednesday of every month. It is on the district calendar. Please look for it. Everybody is welcome. Certainly, if your club is struggling and you need help and you don't qualify for a coach, please come to the urgent care panel. Here are all the suggestions that they gave out last year. We compiled them into one document. It's still an active panel, and we're still going to continue to try to help clubs go forward. So all you do is come, tell us about your club, tell us what struggles you're having, and we will see what we can do to come up with some suggestions that will help you. All right, let's look at specifically at how do you rebuild a Toastmasters club. That for all of our clubs, I think this helps. All of us need to know this information. How do we rebuild a Toastmasters club when it's gotten to that point that we need help? And it could be that you just don't have enough members to get to your 20, so you can never get to distinguished status. Here's what we need to do. We're going to cover the steps of how to rebuild a club and our roles as a part of that. First thing you need to know is the club is not alone. There's lots of help out there. If you have 12 or less members, you can be assigned a club coach. If a club coach is not something that you want for whatever reason, or you have more than 12 but less than 20, your area director is there to help you. Other district leaders are there to help you. The club growth director is there to help you. The club retention chair is there to help you. There are lots of resources. You are not alone as a club, and all of our clubs struggle at one time or another, so don't be ashamed to ask for help. First thing you need to do as a club coach is build a rapport with the club officers and members. Like I said, make sure that they've bought into this and that you guys can get along with each other. You're going to start off just by observing the club. What's going on? Where are their issues? What do we need to do? And coming up with some recommendations on how we do that. Develop a plan with goals for improvement and also with names of people assigned as to who's going to do what. And also, when is that due? So put some time frames around it. Do some goals that are measurable and come up with a way to measure them. And then communicate the plan out. Make sure that you communicate it out to the members and the members buy into it and are willing to help. Then you implement the plan. Ensure that all the changes are performed by the officers. Whatever it is you're going to monitor from there on, you're going to make sure that they are implementing the plan you guys laid out. If they're not for some reason or another, then you need to have a discussion about what's happening. Why are we not implementing the plan? What's going on? We need to go back to the basics, start over again. Then we do that. Gain the respect and trust. This is how you build a rapport with your club. Avoid criticisms. You guys know all about this. This is the same way we do evaluations within a club meeting. When someone gives a speech, we want to be reinforcing and positive, but we also want to come up with suggestions of how they can make improvements within their club. Club Coach Troubleshooting Guide actually is very good in helping you diagnose what some of the issues are. So it asks questions like, do the members sincerely want the club to succeed? That's a big one. Are speeches from Pathways, are they really working the program? Are their meetings varied? Are they fun? Do they have fun when they come to their meetings? Are they working the DCP? We had a club today that was just working on their DCP. Are they actually following that? This is a big one. Do guests receive follow-up invitations? Do they respond when a guest asks about their club? How long does it take them to respond to that particular request? Is the meeting time and place and location convenient? Whether that's online or it's a actual physical place, is it easy to get to? Is it easy to find? When I log on, for instance, and this is a big one, this is huge with me. When I log into the meeting, do they show up early so I can see a face if I'm a visitor? And do they speak to me? Do they speak to each other? Do they look like they're friendly with each other? That makes a big difference. Master Your Meetings is one of the programs that Toastmasters sets out there. I've connected it to this document so that you can just click on it and get it. It creates the right environment. You have sample agendas, moments of truth, officer roles, everything's contained in that one document. Set goals for improvement. How many guests are you going to invite within a certain period of time? How about the officers? Are they being trained? Should they be trained? Do they need additional training? How about meeting participants? Are they showing up? Are they signing up for roles? That's a big one. Several of the clubs now are starting to use the Full Circle Award. It's not a bad idea. People really like to be rewarded for accomplishing things, even if it's just a little certificate. They really like that. Be sure to include timeframes. Like I said, make sure that you have some deadlines of when these things need to happen and that you've named a person who's responsible for that piece of the plan. When you communicate it out to your club members, keep in mind, what will they see? What will they feel? What will they hear? A lot of people don't like change. We have a lot of members who really like the small clubs. If they have 6 members, they're fine with that. If they have 8, good. The smaller, the better. Maybe they like to show up just because it is time to share with friends, and they don't really want to have to follow all the Toastmaster programs, but they are a Toastmasters club, so that's what they need to be doing. Keep in mind, this is what it's going to look like when we make these changes. This is what you can expect so that all of them will be prepared for the change. External actions when we're talking about attracting new members. What can we do? There are lots of membership contests programs throughout the year. You guys are familiar with most of those. Make sure that you are participating in those or promoting those. They do help. If you have some others that you can just use for your club, go for it. I think anything we can come up with where we can invite new people to visit our club, then the better off we are. Public relations. Keep in mind, we can still do news releases. I know their newspapers, for most of us, are not printed anymore, but they are online. They still will print those things. Make sure that you look at free community calendars. All you have to do is go out and Google community calendars near me. Believe it or not, they'll pop up. Any websites you can add your club information to, social networking, Facebook Meetup, LinkedIn. There's lots of others. There's also other programs that Toastmasters have, like Speechcraft, social media, local events. You could have a table at anything that's coming up. We've had a couple of times a table at a parking event that we have here in Chattanooga, where you actually take over a parking space downtown. You display whatever you want to. There's lots of ideas that you can go out in the community and recruit visitors to your club. Make them aware of you. Let them know you're there. The Club Coach Troubleshooting Guide is one of the places where you will monitor whether or not you're having an effect on the club. Is it getting better? Are they actually achieving educational goals? Are they getting new members? This is one place you can go look. The Troubleshooting Guide, you're going to go over and over again to see if they're making any improvement in those areas you previously marked down. Maybe look back at your old guide and see what you did last time. And did you make any changes this time when you went in and graded them? Look at the dashboard in TI. Poll the club members. How do you feel about what we've done so far? Is it working? Is it not working? What can we do different? And of course, you're going to be turning in your club coach reports. So make sure that you go back and review those as well. What success have we had in the last 6 months? Sometimes it really helps to go back and look and see what things we did earlier on, just so that for me, that I know we actually made some changes that had a positive result. Again, here are a lot of resources, including a document called How to Rebuild a Toastmasters Club with some ideas in there, the troubleshooting guide, master your meetings, the urgent care suggestions. I designed this so that if you could just want to click on one of these documents, you don't have to click on all of them to find the links that you're looking for. All the links should be right here. Okay, let's go to our next. If I can get out of this one, we'll go to our next slide deck. All right. Now let's go to the new club sponsor and see if we have some tools that we can help them out with. We want to better understand the new club sponsors' roles. What are some of the things that we need to do? What's in it for you? Let's start off there. If you need to be a club sponsor because you want to be a DTM, that's great. You earn credit by doing the sponsorship role. What else do you get out of it? Well, it enhances leadership skills, your project management skills, your marketing skills. There's a lot of skills you learn by being a new club sponsor. We're going to talk about the duties of a sponsor, establish a corporate club, also a community club, a couple of other things that we'll talk about at the end of this document. First of all, you have to organize your new club. That's a big one. You have to find somebody who's willing to step up as a member of that club, not necessarily you, although you can be a member of the club. You're allowed to have 3 dual members, no more than 3. 17 have to be new members or members who are reinstating their membership. You're responsible for training the club officers when you start. That's a big one because they know nothing about being a club officer. You will help complete the paperwork because there are always a lot of questions around the paperwork. And then plan the charter presentation. Cold calls. Okay. You want to be a club sponsor and or mentor. How do you do that? Let me tell you, don't just rely on the district to start a new club and hand it to you because we have other people who also want to be club sponsors and mentors. Go out and find a club opportunity. Do some cold calls at a business. Discuss what Toastmasters can do for that business. And I'll hear some of listed several of the things that you can use as, we can hone management skills. We can help your members with soft skills, all those kinds of things. Reassure them that Toastmasters will help them assemble a team and put on a demo meeting. And you need at least 30 people for the demo meeting. Now, Jean Coy, you still there?
Yes, I am.
Jean, as a matter of fact, happens to be one of our, I'm going to stop sharing for just a second so you can see Jean. Jean happens to be one of our experts on cold calls. I believe he learned from one of our past international directors. Jean, what can you tell us about cold calls?
Well, you're right. My life was changed when I met Lark Doley, the past international Toastmasters International president, referred to as the Golden Lady. She actually she's on the committee that wrote the Club Growth Director manual that we currently use. She's very intelligent. She's a media presenter, trainer at her corporation. Of course, she may have retired by now, but when she was helping me, that's what she was. And she and I learned a lot about cold calling. She was very knowledgeable. One of the things that I really appreciate about Lark Doley was she said, set your expectations high. Set high expectations. When you meet with a company, set high expectations. Like you might say that most companies actually pay for their employees' membership and kind of drop that in her head so that helps her get a lot more people lined up for the club, because if their company's paying for Toastmasters, they're going to show more interest than they would if they're having to pay themselves. Now, some companies don't do that and they make the employees pay, and that's fine, but you set the expectations high in the beginning. When cold calling, I can show you briefly if I could minimize this and go to the internet. The internet is your friend. And I'll show you a little bit on the internet here, Google Chrome. And I better share, or else you won't be able to see what's going on. So let me figure that out. Screen share. Okay, I've already got it typed in. On the internet, you can find almost anything. And I put on here tips for cold calling Toastmasters clubs. Tips for cold calling Toastmasters club. And if you put that in the internet, I'm using Chrome, it'll come up right at the very beginning with cold calling advice. And it's designed for Toastmasters clubs. So you're not doing salesman cold calling or purchase managers or anything like that. You're doing Toastmaster club cold calling. And there are several examples on the internet. To begin with, it says research your prospect. What does that mean? Well, if you're going to go to company ABC, it would be good for you to know a little bit about that company. You won't be able to find a lot, but you can usually find a website to do some homework and decide, well, I can see this company hires 5,000 people. They work with selling TVs or electronics or whatever their business is. So that helps you when you go in to talk. Now you're going to be going in and talking to people. You're just dropping in. You don't even have an appointment. So you start with open-ended questions that helps them understand. And then it says in here that you call right before lunch or near the end of the day on Wednesdays and Thursdays. For some reason, they think that's the best time. Really, any time will work, but those are the ones that they think will be best. And your receptionist, she is going to be your best friend. You don't want to upset her. She's probably the first person you're going to talk to. When you talk to this young lady or man, whoever the receptionist is, be positive, talk about Toastmasters, be confident, clear, listen very carefully, because you're going to want to get information from her, like who is the head of HR, who's the training department manager, things like that. There's going to be a lot of things you're going to need to find out. But if you look down on this, there's a cold calling script that District 5 put up in Toastmasters. You can click on it. The cold calling script, as soon as it opens up here, for some reason my computer's not opening up. Oh, there it is. It has a lot of advice. It says, the receptionist, hi, my name is Sally Toastmasters with Toastmasters International. We're a worldwide organization specializing in communication and leadership. Can I speak with the HR department or someone in charge of training? Now, your receptionist is going to be a gatekeeper. She's going to be a guard. So you got to be real careful and treat her with the utmost respect. Maybe have a small talk conversation before you ask her the tough questions like, who's your HR person? Now, you can ask her if she's heard about Toastmasters. And she's going to say, yes, I've heard about Toastmasters, or no, I've never heard about Toastmasters. And then this sort of gives you a script of some things you can say. Great, we focus on this and talk about, you need to know the companies in your area that's near the place you're doing the code calling. Like in Chattanooga, they have Unum, they used to have McKee Foods, there was TVA. These different companies have Toastmasters clubs. So you can say, well, I've been working with some of the other clubs in our area, like TVA, Unum, McKee, whatever, at Coca-Cola, whoever your Blue Cross and Blue Shield, something like that. They kind of give you an idea. And then that also lets the person you're talking to have a better idea that you know what you're talking about. And then here's how to overcome objections, the gatekeeper's objections. You can read this on your own. A warm call. but you want to get a meeting set up. The best thing to do is try to get a meeting set up within 2 weeks. Probably 1 week would be better, but you point out that I'm going to be calling back on you and I'm going to leave some stuff, and you always have a handbag, a membership bag, a little notebook or something with brochures, things that talk about Toastmasters leadership opportunities, things like that in your packet that you leave with the receptionist, and you tell them, please hand this to your HR person or your training person. If you get a meeting set up, which is your goal, make sure when you're talking with HR, you know that HR is busy. And so instead of telling HR that they're going to be responsible for Toastmasters, you tell them, do you have a frontline manager or someone who can champion this Toastmasters leadership opportunity? And then they might think, well, yeah, I've got some people that need to grow in their management skills, and this would be a great opportunity for them. I could put them in charge of a Toastmasters meeting. And so you do that. And if you have a date set, use the script, because you can find on this page here also a script. I think District 57 put some neat stuff out. Let me back up here and see if, well, I lost it. Let me stop the screen, okay? Okay, we're back to live, just listening to me. Anyway, tips for cold calling Toastmasters clubs. There are a ton of things to look at. It's a great resource. One thing you need to look at when you're looking at tips on the internet is not everything is up to date. You may find information from 2020, 2021, not 2024. And they'll say the cost of membership is $45. So you have to be careful when you're talking with your client that you don't tell them the membership is $45, because it's not, it's $60. But you can sum it all up and say, your employees for $120 a year, thereabouts, could have an excellent education. And the neat thing about Toastmasters is follow-up. Every time you meet, there's going to be follow-up. There's going to be an opportunity to learn. And that's different from those expensive programs that you may have taken in the past. One I can think of is Dale Carnegie. That's several $1,000s, and it lasts for a few weeks. And then when it's over, it's over. There's no follow-up. There's no feedback. But with Toastmasters, you constantly have feedback, and you're constantly growing, and you're having fun at the same time. So that's what you need to do, is point out the positives about Toastmasters, and you'll have a very successful cold call. And remember, cold calling is just like talking to a friend. Don't think of it as somebody that's a total stranger. Just think of it as a friend and go in there and talk friendly like you would one-on-one with any of your friends, and relax and have fun. Back to you, Stacy.
Thank you, Gene. And while I restart my screen share, let me ask you, when you were, I know you did a lot of cold calling when you were the club growth director for our district. How many clubs did we start that year? Do you remember?
It was like 11 or 12 clubs that we put in. We lost
So-
6 clubs, so I think we had a net gain of 7. But yeah, it was like quite a few. And all that was in the last half of the Toastmaster year, because we didn't have Lark Doley until the fall conference. And she completely changed my whole thought about cold calling, corporate clubs, setting high expectations, things like that. She really lit a fire under me, and we had a great team. And I took everything that she taught me over the 2 or 3 days that we were together, and I taught it to the team. And a lot of the team members were used to the old way of doing things, which was you start with 5 people and you try to build a club. That doesn't work. You need to start with 20 people, like the guideline in the books represent. Then you have a good Toastmasters club. You try to start with 5, or 6, well, you're constantly recruiting. And the people that first came, they leave before you become a club. And you're constantly rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding, and it's very difficult to get a club going. So if you can get 20 people to start with, then you'll have a successful club.
Okay, thank you, Gene. I really appreciate you doing that. So cold calling works. If any of you know of any companies out there, you see opportunities, start looking around. Don't wait for the district to look for you. Start looking around. The club that we started at Amazon, which is called the Scenic City Club, started with a single conversation with one member. She asked me about visiting a club to see what it was like. And from there, we developed a whole new club. So keep that in mind. If, however, you are more interested in a community club, we can help you out there as well. First of all, determine the depth of opportunities. In other words, are there other clubs in the area that you want to start a community club? And are those corporate clubs or are those also community clubs? Is there room enough for another club should you want to start one? Do some networking, bring some folks together. Find out, for instance, if there are any specialty clubs or groups within the area. I know we started the Music City Club with a group of folks who love music in the Nashville area. There's lots of opportunities. Find those other clubs who might be interested in getting those other folks who might be interested in getting together. Start recruiting and marketing. Right now, you have to have a minimum of 20 to start a new club. Toastmasters is thinking about possibly raising that in the future. So see how many people you can recruit as quickly as possible. The next piece is for a corporate club or a community club is to complete all the paperwork. There are 7 forms, 1 through 6B. So there's a 6A and a 6B. All of them have to be documented, signed. Everything has to be done. Our club growth director this year, Jeff England, is really good about helping us review those documents and make sure that we filled out all of the forms, crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's. Make sure that your club members are aware of the dues. There is a $125 chartering fee that is in addition to club member dues. So make sure they are aware of that going in and that you have somebody who's willing to sponsor this club and pay that $125, or perhaps all the members can put in an extra $5 or $6 and pay it that way. Then, as of course the club sponsor, you are in charge of the chartering ceremony, which is after you have chartered the club. They will send you chartering certificates for each of the members who join initially. Invite guests, publicize the event, prepare a written agenda as you would for any other Toastmasters program, and just make it a party. All right. Again, resources, how to sponsor a new club, how to build a Toastmasters club, new charter ceremony. I've included the script in there for you, the leadership handbook for training your officers, the digital guest packet that Toastmasters now has available for all of us to use. There's a couple of articles all about Toastmasters, benefit of membership, member experience video. Those are all things that you can share with, for instance, any corporation that you're going to do a cold call with. You can share those resources with them, let them find out a little bit more about Toastmasters. Club officer training is a document I put together to train the club officers of this new club we're chartering. You are welcome to use that however you need to. Again, the club program book, and also here are all of your chartering forms in this one document, so that all you have to do is click on the form, fill it out, download it, make sure that you get all your signatures and you're ready to go. All right. One more presentation we're going to look at. And this is our new club mentors. So if you would rather be a mentor instead of a sponsor, then here are some of the things that you're going to be responsible for. Again, we're going to look at the role and understand what are some of the duties. What's in it for you? You develop the capacity to translate values and strategies into actions, improve leadership skills, your own leadership skills, build teamwork skills, which is awesome. Obtain a fresh new perspective. It really will change your perspective to visit these other clubs, whether you are operating as a coach, a sponsor, or a mentor. It can actually fire you back up if you've lost some of your enthusiasm for Toastmasters. And you get, of course, earn credit towards your Distinguished Toastmaster. Mentors' duties, you're going to train members on meeting roles, on speaking and evaluation skills, on leadership skills, on building and maintaining membership. Because again, just like every other club, they're going to constantly be recruiting new members. Members leave, life happens, they change jobs, whatever. You're constantly recruiting new members, and they need to know how to do that. Train them in quality club meetings. What does that mean? Train them in pathways. There might be a lot of questions about pathways that you will need to be able to answer once you start mentoring your club. You will be answering questions about Toastmasters International. By the way, what does DTM stand for? What does TI stand for? What does VPE mean? Meeting roles. How do I time for table topics again? Those questions are always going to come up. Pathways, both member and base camp questions. So you'll need to be familiar with a base camp manager role so that you can tell them, how do I get in? Where do I find the information? How do I approve whatever somebody submitted as a pathways accomplishment? You need to know the officer's duties and be able to respond to questions about those. You also need to know about contests, because every club has contests twice a year. They will know absolutely nothing about how to conduct a Toastmasters contest if all of them are brand new Toastmasters. So you're going to have to tell them how to conduct contests and show them all the skills needed for those roles as well. And you're going to have to feed their enthusiasm again. Keep them up, keep them enthusiastic, keep them going. Here are, again, all of the resources that you will need for mentoring. There's a couple of different ones in here for training in leadership roles and also in membership, or excuse me, meeting roles. I suggest that you use the Toastmasters Better Speaker series. Here are downloads for each of those. It helps you with controlling your fear, impromptu speaking, all the basic stuff that they need to know to start out. Again, remember when you were starting out as a brand new Toastmaster and you knew none of this, here's where you can go to help train those members who know absolutely nothing about giving a speech or doing an evaluation. Successful Club Series. Here are all of the Toastmasters provided trainings for each of these particular documents, including mentoring, including going beyond the club, so leadership beyond the club. And here is the Leadership Excellence series. So this is everything about how to be a coach, motivating people, all that other good stuff that they will need in leadership roles. All of those are contained in all of these documents. I will make these documents, these presentations available to all of you. So you are more than welcome to use them. I encourage all of you to share with each other. It would be great if we would set up something, maybe meet periodically if you're interested in doing that, to say, hey, I need some help. I've got a club and I don't know what to do with it. Or I had a question come up and I don't know what the answer is. Anything we want to share that way would be great. All right. Now, questions, comments. What do we have? I know there's a couple of people put some things in chat. And I have not had. Okay. Can you be a sponsor if you're an employee at the company? Yes, you can. If you are already a Toastmaster and you want to sponsor a club at the company, absolutely, you can be named a sponsor. I would definitely encourage that because you're the one who knows the most about a Toastmasters club. So that would be fantastic. Let's see. Anything else? Now, Heidi, you said you are retired from the company. Are we talking about sponsoring a company club?
No, that wasn't me. That was just
That
lost your
was
name.
me. That was me. I'm sorry. I thought she direct messaged me, and
Oh, okay.
I was retired and not an employee. I just
You,
totally.
you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're retired or not. You can be a sponsor of any club who needs a club sponsor. So if you start one at your old company, you can still be a sponsor of that club. Now, if you're starting a corporate club and it's going to be for employees of that club only. In other words, they're not offering membership to outside members. You couldn't be a member, but you can still be a sponsor. You don't have to be a member to be a sponsor. I'm sponsoring the club at Amazon. When my sponsor duties are done, then I go away and the mentors continue on for 6 months with training and everything else. So, you do not have to be a member of the company or a member of the club to be a sponsor or a mentor. Other questions, comments?
Stacy, this
Yes.
is Sharon. Do you how do you request a club coach? Do you fill out a form or just send an email to someone?
You can send an email to Jeff. There is a form that you will have to fill out. The district will fill out to send to Toastmasters International, but just send an email to Jeff and say, our club needs a coach.
Thank you.
Yes. And I encourage all of you, consider coaching another club. It's always easier to coach another club than it is your own because you can have an outside perspective. You're not too ingrained into the club environment. Jeff has just dropped his email address into the chat. Feel free to copy and paste that into an email and send him a note. Now, we do need coaches. We have a few folks who have requested to be a coach, a mentor, or a sponsor this year to get their DTM. But we need a lot of coaches. We have at least half our clubs are qualified for a coach.
So, but just a reminder that both the coach that's going to be the club coach and the officer both have to go through that program on the coaching side and sign the form.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Did you hear what Jeff said? On the pathways coaching module, both the president of the club and the coach himself have to go through that program to make sure they understand what it's about. And then they have to sign the form and send it in to Jeff. So we can make that happen.
They either give it to one of the trio members who have to sign it. I think either me or Jason. So
Okay. They'll forward it on to Toastmasters International. You should receive an email saying you have been appointed as a coach. Here's the time frame. And then, of course, you will have all the stuff you need to do your preliminary report and your follow-up reports.
And Stacy, I was also going to jump in.
Yes,
to
Carol.
be sure. And years ago, I was a mentor, but I failed to do my paperwork after doing it. And ended up having to mentor a second time. So really stay on top of especially if you're doing it for credit for your DTM, stay on top of the paperwork and get it turned in on time.
Yes. And a lot of that paperwork requires the president of the club or an officer of the club to sign off on the paperwork saying, yes,
Right.
they were here and they did the job in order for you to get credit for it. So make sure they follow through and the club actually turns in that paperwork if that's required. Because you're right, Carol, that is huge. And for those of you who think sponsoring might be easier than, say, mentoring or coaching, I can tell you we've had a couple of clubs that really were excited. They wanted to get started. We assigned some sponsors to them. And 6 months in, they decided they were not going to charter. And so those sponsors lost 6 months worth of work that they put in, and then the club did not take off. So it's not necessarily easier than coaching a club. I think if you have resources and help for any of them, you would do a fantastic job with any of them. Any other comments, questions, suggestions for anybody else who's right now coaching, sponsoring, or mentoring? Any experiences that anybody's had you want to tell us about? Okay, Jeff, we are at 8:54. I'm going to turn it back over to you. Please, I encourage all of you, let's communicate with each other. Send me an email if you're interested in talking. I'll be more than happy to talk to any of you. Maybe we can share ideas. I'll put all of these documents out someplace where you can get to them or send them a link in an email. I'll do something so that you can have this information and all the links that go with it. Is there anything else? All right, Jeff, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay, and we'll stop the recording.